Hey everyone, welcome back to Tape Deck Reviews. I'm James Jump. I'm proud to announce this new series. So, what I'll be doing is I'll be bringing on some of my musical idols, some folk legends, the grandfathers of rock and roll. Basically, I've just got all my idols on in music. I've emailed them, I've messaged them, I've got out to them, reached through contact, managers. It's been months in the making, and I cannot wait to show you what I've came up with. I'm really excited for the first episode because I've managed to bring someone on who's got so much energy and so much excitement. And speaking to him was one of the most funnest things I've done in a while. Come on, we're in lockdown. I can, watch a Boris conference. I'm excited for this first episode as I'm bringing on someone who has so much energy in their music, so much excitement in their personality. They just spill it, oh my god. And speaking to him was so fun, and it made me realise how much of an icon he is. So I bet you're wondering, right, who's he talking about? What is James talking about? Right, I'm talking about Felix Hagan, from Felix Hagan and the Family. So, if you don't know that name, I'm going to drop a bit of knowledge onto you of who he is and what he does. Felix is a rock pop, glitter pop idol who loves to give you a show. He's a showmanship at heart and a great singer. So, the band, what about him? What do you need to know about him? Anything important? Well, they formed back in 2012, 2013, they released their debut EP, String Up the Entertainer, which personally I think is one of their best, that's some of their best, songs they've done. I'm always going to love String Up the Entertainer. They've got some of the best songs in there, Go Back Home, and I feel like that's one I think people should listen to. I really enjoy that. And in 2015 they released Kiss the Misfits, which is another EP by them. And listen to the name of the track, Kiss the Misfits. I remember listening to that, so captivated by it. It will make you feel this euphoric feeling. It's amazing, that song. It's so jumpy, it's fun. It's one of them songs what you can put on in your living room by yourself at ridiculous volume and just have fun. I call them a carefree song, and I feel like Felix Hagan and the Family are the kings and queens of carefree songs. So, the band, they were doing good, they released some of their stuff, they were getting some traction, they were doing pretty good. And a little known singer by the name of Frank Turner, he saw Felix and the band's work and thought, you know what, let's bring him on tour. So, the band supported Frank in the North America tour. I'm sorry if that's incorrect. I'm very sorry if that's wrong on me. But yeah, North America tour, they played loads of their stuff, and they warmed up Frank Turner's crowds, they warmed up the stage. Basically, if you were paying to see Frank Turner, you'd get another treat as well. And back in 2017, they released their debut EP, Delirium Tremendous. Unfortunately, it's been around 4 years since we've heard anything new from the band, but they are working on some things, and I'm excited to see what they'll come up with, and I'm excited to see their solo projects. But recently, Felix has been doing something every Friday, where he gets his community, he gets his fans, and live streams on Facebook. If you've ever been to one of the Felix live streams, you know they're very homely, they're very wholesome, and there's a very lovely community around it, and that's how I got into the Felix Hagan Facebook group. And everyone in that group, everyone in that community is so nice that they're lovely people. So I want to give a major shout out to that community. They are very nice people. So it was a way for Felix to play music and a way for Felix to express himself a bit more. Every night was different. You had something new. There was requests. You had ABBA nights, you had rock and roll nights. There was so much to go off of, and it was great to see this community coming together during lockdown. So, you're probably not here to hear an 18-year-old chat shit about why he loves Felix Hagan so much. I know what you're here for. We all know what you're here for. You're here for the Felix Hagan interview. So, before we jump into that, I just want to say, when I chatted with Felix, he was so warm and happy. This man had so much to tell. He was a goldmine of stories and knowledge. Even if you're not a Felix fan and you're just watching from I Told You to Watch a Friend or something, listen, because he's got so much tips for being an artist, how to feel. He's very good in that sense. So I highly recommend listen to this. Just slap it on. It'll be great. It's a great listen. So usually when my interviews, they will last around half an hour, 45 minutes. Well, Felix, he doubled that. He came in with a chunky hour. I sat there and I interviewed him and was like, right, I hope that he doesn't get bored of me. So I'm going to I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Usually I don't like asking people loads of questions just in case they'd be like, I've got to go early. So that's understandable. But Felix just kept chatting and chatting. It was great to see this devotion. It was nice to hear these fully fledged out answers. What led into more Felix's chatting. like a conversation, and it was great to see that. Like, there's one part of the interview, which you'll see soon, is where I say I love La La Land, and it genuinely felt like a conversation with one of my mates. So I'm glad Felix can interpret that. So without further ado, I'd like to start the interview with the one and only Felix Hagan. Woo! It's a virtual clap. It's a virtual audience. So you've heard him now. Now it's time to hear from him. Everyone, here's Felix Hagan. So Felix, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely wonderfully, thank you very much. I've had a strange time trying to re-engage my musical brain after Christmas. It's because my brain is this kind of cartwheeling clown car barn of nonsense that doesn't sort of work properly, just endless hurricane of noise. And so when I'm in work mode, it's great. It's like a lovely tap that I can turn on and sort of have music flying out. But then, if I take 2 weeks off to eat a billion mince pies and sort of veg out in front of the television, it's hard to re-engage that side of things. But new projects, new year. There's all sorts of lovely stuff that I've got on the to-do list. So I'm feeling very good. And I had a lovely walk this morning through a wetland.
Very nice. I mean, is it like a monkey going off in your head like a cymbal half the time? Because I feel like that's what you'd imagine when you can't think of anything.
Well, no, it's kind of the opposite. It's just a question of trying to wrench myself back to the task that I'm trying to do. So it's this kind of, good Lord. It's like, I'll sort of sit down and go, right, time to send that email. And then I'll just look to my left and there's a piano right there. And then, I'll probably just play that for a bit. And then sort of 9 hours later, I'll sort of fall away from that. And, I'll just send it tomorrow. Yeah, I've been trying to send that email for 11 years now. Good Lord. But it's just trying to get the focus back. I'm a sort of generally quite unfocused individual. But when I've got a lovely job on the table, then good Lord, I'll just tumble into it and disappear for days until it's all done. And current projects, I'm sort of writing various comedy songs. I'm collaborating with a wonderful comedian. We've just sort of started, so I'm not going to give you too many specifics on it. But I was very lucky to be given the chance to write a lot of the music for Spitting Image, the TV show that was on quite recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was collaborating with the writers. I wasn't doing any lyrics for it, which is my normal thing, music and lyrics. But I was just doing the, writing the music and producing the songs, and then directing the impressionists over Zoom, which was absolutely brilliant fun. But anyway, one of the performers from that has got in touch to say they greatly enjoyed the music that I did, and so we're going to do some stuff together. It's quite exciting.
Lovely stuff. So the rest of the questions, they're a mix of me and a mix of the fandom of over on Facebook. 2 big people to shout out are Gabby Linares, if I've pronounced your name wrong, I'm so sorry, and Sally Walker. They've given some questions, what I've included into this. I've replaced my mind has gone for the hell of me. I cannot remember what questions they asked on the note list. So if it was one of your questions, it's there. I promise.
Well, those 2 are absolute favourites of mine. They're wonderful.
Oh, lockdown. How have you been? Like, it must have been weird for you and Felix Hagan and the family. Like, the band can't really rehearse at the moment. It's locked down. Your mind's probably gone places. How have you been mentally and with music and that?
Well, I mean, I'll address the 2 things separately. I mean, musically, obviously it's a bit tricky when, half of my kind of income comes from live performance, not just with the family, but with many other sort of different sort of projects that I do. And all of a sudden, half my job is illegal, which is sort of pretty disquieting. And with regards to the family, I mean, the annoying thing was that we had been in the studio right at the start of the year, recording a new EP of songs that I'd written, and I think they're the best songs I've ever written for the family.
That's a bold statement.
Oh, no, but they're very kind of, I don't know, I think I really kind of reached a really nice kind of cohesive place with the songs, because it's always, everything I always write is going to be, masses of variety and messing with genres, the old sort of musical theatre approach. But the songs I wrote, I was just very, very pleased with how they came out. It was a real kind of celebration of the ethos that I think lies at the heart of the band, which is all, I always try and bring it down to one word, which is joy. And it's sort of finding the joy in every single part of the process. So, you know, right from the writing, and I do not like songs that just bumble along and then end. I like songs that are like 100 firework displays going off at once, and then that, you know, keeps building and building and getting bigger. And it's kind of finding that energy, and then finding the right instrumentation and the arrangement and the lyrics and all of it. And then, but I was sort of, in the past, that had always tended towards writing songs that were, you know, quite fast, like big, fast rock songs. But my kind of mission with the new songs I was writing was to get that same sort of energy into songs that were not slow, but certainly a bit slower.
More like a ballad, more like...
Not so much ballads, but more, I don't want to reach for the word anthemic. That's not for me to use. But I did think I want songs that make everyone there in a room who are listening just throw their arms around each other and feel like we're all together. It was like really trying to write that level of joy, but give it a sense of community, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think the songs really kind of just very happy with them. And we got in the band were absolutely on top of their game. You know, I was in the producer's chair for this one, and I wanted to, you know, because in the past I've always been when it comes to using the studio, if you know what I mean. It's always been my, because lots of bands are like, you know, we need to be able to make the record and then reproduce it perfectly live. You know what I mean? That's a kind of very...
I don't believe in that, I reckon. Like, it should be different. It should be a different experience.
Exactly. It's a totally understandable attitude, and I completely understand. But my thing is, you know, it's like, in one, you know, here you've got this rocket ship full of magic tricks that can, you know, propel you into another universe. Use it. And so it's like, you know, but for this record, I wanted to try and sort of pare it back to just the songs, and, you know, instead of and still have that sort of enormous joyful energy to it, but create that energy just with the guitars and the keys and the voices and the drums, and try and I don't know what I'm, you know, it's just try and make it a little bit more organic, maybe. As a kind of experiment, just to see, because I felt like the songs kind of warranted it. But anyway, so I'm getting off topic. We recorded all of the rhythm tracks, so all the drums and the bass and all of my guitars and pretty much all of Tom Weber, our staggering lead guitarist, all of his parts. But then bloody lockdown happened, so we haven't done any of the vocals. We haven't done any of the keys. So there's still a lot of work to do. And of course, we as a band are scattered around at all four corners of the United Kingdom. So getting us together to actually finish it, I mean, heaven knows when it's going to get finished. But, you know, it's like we've got this wonderful thing just sat there. We've got this beautiful cake just waiting to be iced. And yeah, I mean, it will get finished and people will hear it. But, you know, it's just frustrating that we haven't been able to do that. It would have been out by now were it not for the old Rona. Obviously not the biggest tragedy of all this. But the
go on, sorry.
Yeah, so that was frustrating. But in terms of work, like, I've been very, very busy throughout all of this because, you know, my life these days is an awful lot geared towards theatre. So I do a lot of, you know, so I'm writing musicals left, right and centre. Not only the show, which I'm co-writing with Tash from The Family and our other pals, Bob and Dave, which is Operation Mincemeat, which we did, which has been on in London a couple of times and is, you know, and is coming back to bigger venues as soon as it's legal. But then also I'm writing several other shows, and I'm being, you know, brought in as a songwriter now for things. And then there was Spitting Image, which took up a lot of my time. And then I was sort of doing an album of covers that people commissioned, and then I sort of started doing the Friday night live streams, which have been, God, they've been the support struts of my very soul for the last year. And I mean, God, we're coming up to a year of doing them, and good Lord, it's been that's been the thing that's very much kept me going. But in terms of kind of health, you know, sort of happiness-wise throughout all this, I don't know. It would have been very easy for me because my moods are quite sort of tidal, and they can kind of go, you know, they can go out and they stay out for a long time. And so I kind of made a very conscious decision towards the start of all this that I was going to stop watching the news. Because the news turned out to be a never-ending, ever-increasing exponential wall of horror.
Exactly.
And so I thought, well, there is nothing at all I can do. There is nothing I can do in the face of this other than just follow the guidelines and be very, very careful, and then just try and use what meager platform I have to try and do a bit of good and make people feel nice. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to stop exposing myself to this never-ending, never-ending misery. And that turned out to be, for me anyway, a very good decision, because it's kept me, pretty positive. If I'm just focusing on, making the music and, and being with my lovely little tribe on a Friday, and then, collaborating with lovely people on theatre stuff. And everyone I work with in the world of theatre is sort of almost suspiciously wonderful. And so that's very much kept me going. Yeah, so that's about it, really. What a tremendously overlong answer to your question.
I mean, that was a great long answer, because I just love how you keep calling your like part of work illegal, because it's just so mad. If someone would have said like the arts sector would be illegal like 2 years ago, you'd laugh at them and think, what are they on about?
I know. Good Lord. And I know, but and also I get sort of, I don't know, because I have this sort of, deeply ingrained need to show off. Yeah. This kind of, I'm, the kind of precocious child that sort of demanded that all the parents and all their friends stop what they're doing and watch me as I do the little dance, which I've made up. That is, that little boy, all he's done is grow a beard and get a bit taller. And so so it's like, and that need is so strong. And if I don't sort of, lance that boil at least, very regularly, I find myself sort of in a total existential crisis. And so it was very worrying, the thought of not being able to perform for people and not sort of, and not do that. And so the live streams, I mean, I was initially a bit resistant to it, purely because I'd seen live streams and it was just sort of someone with a phone in their bedroom, and it just sort of felt like, I don't know, it just felt, it didn't, because my whole approach to performance and the way that you should mount anything like this is to make things as entertaining as possible. And for me, that's always been bound up in the aesthetics of a thing. It's always like, I'd never go on stage in the clothes that I'd been sort of shuffling about in all day. It's all about it's about heightening things and allowing people to come up with you, and for a short time just exist in a space outside of the real world, if you like, where we can all be these kind of glittery, preposterous characters that we create for ourselves. And that's very liberating. And it's the thing that I used to get from watching theatre shows and from watching the, very performy bands that I adore, is that, just for a brief moment, we're all in this kind of magical thing together. It really is an escape. It's like, and I just felt like I wouldn't be able to deliver that with my total lack of technical expertise and my iPhone sort of perched against a
but it worked. It really did work out.
Well, yeah. Well, luckily enough, my studio, which I'm currently sat in, is, housed within a wedding venue, and the manager, who I am blessed to be related to, he kind of said, well, the building's empty now. I mean, and luckily it was sort of, we had all these decorations lying around. And so I was able to sort of get all the bits that otherwise would be furnishing people's nuptials and create a bit of a set. And in a lovely room, which has a nice natural reverb to it. And then I got a little microphone to plug into my phone so it doesn't sound too awful. And then I kind of got the phone and balanced it on a mic stand on top of a load of sheets so it wouldn't wobble around too much. And then, and sort of managed to get to the point where, okay, it does look kind of nice, and it does sound, kind of nice, provided I don't keep fucking the songs up. Mm-hmm. And which happens very frequently, any regular viewers will tell you. But then, and I just found I just love talking, and I love interacting with people, and I love the community that's grown around it. And it's sort of, and good Lord, I mean, some of the things they send me and the messages and the Christmas, all the cards, I mean, God, I was just sat there blubbing away in my house with just sort of, I don't know, this kind of astonishing feeling of happiness that these people derive such pleasure from the thing that gives me such pleasure. It's just turned out to be an absolute lifeline for me, and the fact that it is helping other people. I mean, good Lord, it's like, I don't know. I just feel very, very lucky to be able to do it, really.
It's a warm community. I can 100% agree with that. It's like it's open arms. If you've never heard a Felix song, they will like educate you instantly. But I want to move on in a bit about live music.
Okay.
What's like one of your favorite songs to play live? Because as you said before, you are a showman. If you go to one of your gigs, you are bound to give a show, or one of your theatre like mincemeat, you're bound to give a show. What's been one of your like songs to play live? Because I feel like "Be a Freak" could be one more pops live. Like I haven't been able to go to a gig unfortunately because I haven't. There was not really any at the time I became a fan.
Uh,
So what's been that one song that you love playing live?
well, it's strange because because I will write. There's many songs. Every time I finish a song, I'm like, "That's the best song you've ever written." Oh my god, people are gonna love that. And then oftentimes it'll be the one that maybe you don't, because I'm not going to release a song if I don't think it's really good.
Yeah,
But you'll be caught off guard with the ones that seem to really land with people, and that's very, very helpful because whilst I will always write music, and it is kind of deeply ingrained within me, and it's an instinct, and it's what I just do, and it's what the noise in my head is. I do not write songs for me. I write them for people, which is a pretty fundamental. Again, this is going to be a very long answer to a very simple question. I'm sorry, but it feels like a bit of a fundamental difference to me. So because. And this is not to say that my approach is correct at all, but it's the one that works for me. But lots of people I know, they will write songs to express some, to express an emotion within themselves, and they'll just say, I write music for me, and if people like it, that's great. I don't hold that attitude. I am very much part of the more theatrical, by which I mean, musical theatre approach to it all, which is give the people what they want. I want people to have a really, really lovely time, and if I can do that within my kind of frames of reference, which are these, big technicolor musical moments from the more theatrical side of pop music and rock, then that's the thing. So the songs that people respond to, it's like, okay, well, great. Well, I can keep exploring. I'll keep going down that path and see where it leads me. I'm very much led by the audience's reaction to stuff. So when our album Attention Seeker came out in 2017, I think.
I think it was 2017.
Yeah. So that came out, and it was a big, it was a big old mixed bag of different genres and styles. And there were ones which I thought, well, that's going to be a live favorite. That's going to be a, whatever. And I was totally wrong. And the ones that people, for example, like you say, Be a Freak, that turned out to be one that really resonated with people. And they'd send me these lovely letters about how it, help them through stuff, and so many people have had the lyrics of it tattooed on them and all this sort of stuff. And and I'd kind of written that song as a bit of, okay, I'm just gonna, because I don't know, I think because I feel this way, I think the music that I write tends to attract people that maybe not exclusively. I'd like to think that it's music for everybody, but it seems to resonate with people who have maybe had a bit of trouble fitting in at certain points in their life, which is certainly true of me. I've felt like felt very kind of anxious and strange in many, many social situations around my life. And and that song was a bit of a shout of to just say fuck that, and just say, look, this is, I mean, it's all about finding your community, really. And that song was me kind of shouting, look, let's just, for all the people that have felt strange, come over here, because we all feel that way, and we're all here together having a lovely time. So just, shrug it all off. And that really resonated with people. And so now, obviously we haven't done a gig in a long time now, but when we do get to that bit in the set, it does feel particularly special. And, we took that song and we added a bunch of stuff into it for when we do it live. We've done the old Frank Turner section in the middle, because I've toured with Frank, and there'll be certain songs where it's like, okay, now we're, and now the band will vamp for a long time while we have a lovely chat, and it just sort of crystallizes,
it works.
encapsulates. Exactly, and it just encapsulates the ethos of why everyone's there. and that song, we added a bunch of stuff for me to have a chat with people and like build it up. I don't know, it just feels very special. That one and Some Kind of Hero always feels very nice to play live, just because I don't know, I'm particularly pleased with that song. It was I think that's a good one. And people seem to really like it. But then I mean, it's the thing, it all stems from the audience reaction. If they give me, if it's making them happy, then it feels magnificent on stage. I sort of don't care what the song is. And and just being on stage with the family is just a special thing, because they are just the most wonderful people who I just completely love with every cell in my body. And we've been through so much together, and we've had so many wonderful adventures, and just to be with them. And I just, not only are they my closest friends, they are also the best musicians I know. And they all just bring such amazing energy to the music. And, it just feels very special when we play live. It feels, like something a bit transcendent to me. But yes, I hope that answers your question.
That perfectly answers it. But bring on 2021 or 2022 or 2030, 2030 when you're able to play live, and just get on stage, do it, and just act like it's the last night. Like, because I like, the best thing about Be a Freak is it's that song that makes you feel so fucking good. Like, it's that song you could throw on, put it on 100, like the maximum volume, and have zero shit and just dance to it. That's how I describe that song to people.
Oh God, that's nice. Thank you.
Sorry, you go first.
No. Well, I was one of the things I was well, I don't know. Well, it might come up in one of your later questions, but because, like I say, this EP that we recorded, it's going to be a good old while till it comes out, because we've got so much more work to do on it. But I've like I say, one of the projects that I set myself during lockdown was to do this, was to start recording covers for people. And that was, partly to earn a bit of cash, partly just to have, music coming out that people could hear and enjoy. But also to kind of, keep my skills sharp as a producer and an arranger, because, production and arrangement is such a huge part of what I do. And so, my whole thing with them was people would request a song and I would take it and go, right, I'm going to try and do this song in a totally different genre, but then try and do everything I can to make the song sound like it has always existed in that genre. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm going to take, I'm going to take Frank Turner's, which one did I do? Which song was it? Get Better. And, I'm going to take Get Better and I'm going to do it as a kind of second line New Orleans marching sort of doo-wop rock song. But I'm going to try and make it sound like it was written in that style, and try and make it just really fit. Or I'm going to take, You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC and do it as a kind of Childish Gambino sort of soul song and see if I can make that work, And to do that, I had to, I decide on the genre and then I do a real deep dive into that genre on Spotify and try and pick up on all the tropes and try and magpie out all the tiny little inflections and ways that the instruments are played, and then try and replicate that. And that was and as a kind of consequence of that, I started writing songs in genres that wouldn't necessarily work in the family. Because with the family, my whole approach to the songwriting is I will go, right, I'm going to take, I'm going to borrow from lots of different genres, but kind of house them within, rock music, essentially. Yeah. So, for example, songs like Delirium Tremendous, my song about alcohol withdrawal, I'm going to take, foxtrot music. And, so it's dum, 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 bum, ba, da, 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 which is a full-on, piece of, Hispanic foxtrot music. And I'm going to turn that into a piece of disco rock, But with this, I was like, right, I'm going to write some songs that just are a piece of foxtrot music. Do you see what I mean? I'm going to just really embrace the genre and try and write a song within that genre. And I found myself writing like country songs and funk music. And I thought, well, I wouldn't do these in the family, but I think they're pretty good, these songs. I'm going to record them. So I've been recording these songs, and I'm going to be releasing those solo as soon as I can figure out how to record a decent music video with my phone. And oh, sorry, a little burp there. There's pretty potent stuff, this booze-free bit that Sally sent me. Anyway, so so I'm going to be releasing that soon. So there will be new music that I've written for people to hear very soon, as in addition to the various theatre things I've written that are coming out. Anyway, yes, there you go. I just wanted to mention it.
No, perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do solo because I feel like it would be a massive mix up, and it'll be great to see. Like 'cause we've seen with the live, like what you can do, and we see with the family, like you've got a massive range of almost every genre. You like it, like a bit like a jack of traits, like a massive pack of cards. So that album of covers, it's gonna be great, and I can't wait for that. But this next question is from a fan. How would you
Okay.
cope with writer's block?
Oh God, I've got a million different techniques for that. I mean,
Like personally, how did you do it?
okay, well, I have lots, like I say, lots of different things. I mean, because writer's block it's just again, I'm talking about my own experience of it. I'm
Yeah,
sure everyone's different, but for mine, if ever I found myself struggling to write, it's always just some form of anxiety, or I'm very aware that my brain is malfunctioned in all sorts of ways, and so it'll just be like things are a bit stuffy, and that's fine. That's the thing. Writer's block is fine, right? It's just you're just not feeling what you're working on at the moment, and so I have lots of different sort of ways to deal with it. So there are, leaving aside the actual writing for a second, I mean, you're a musician, you can practice your instrument, for example. You can go away and just work on your technique, which is very, very important because it makes you a better songwriter. And then, but other things, and because I play lots of different instruments, I can go and say, right, well, today's the day I finally nailed the Purdy shuffle on the drums, or the day that I finally master some diminished licks in blues guitar, or where I finally get a bit of work done on my left hand chord voicings on the piano, or whatever.
yeah,
And that might sound deathly boring to people, but it's the sort of thing that excites me. Or I can educate myself about harmony a bit more, so I'll watch some Jacob Collier videos, and I'll read a few things about about sort of tritone substitutions, or secondary dominance, or whatever. It's I'll educate myself on some new piece of jazz harmony and try and work that into my playing. But then another really good way is, because I write for a living, and in addition to theatre and in addition to releasing songs, I do got to keep food on the table. I do a lot of commercial writing, so I've written endless music for adverts, I've written for TV shows, I've written for I've written hold music for companies, I've written so much other stuff. And with that kind of thing, you just can't have writer's block.
yeah.
But with all of those jobs, when it's with theatre or writing for yourself, there's no guideline. It's just what do you want to write. But with the commercial stuff, you get a very, very detailed brief. So the music supervisor, the director, the producer, whoever, will send you a very detailed document with, okay, we want a piece of acoustic driven country rock that's 3 minutes 30. We want it to sort of have a kind of major feel, and here's a couple of references, and it'll be a couple of tracks that they want it to be like. And then all of a sudden that sort of removes the creative, all the self-doubt all of a sudden, because it's just like, oh, okay, so I've just got to write something like that. And all of a sudden you're far more of a kind of I don't know, you're more of a kind of tradesman, really, more than an artist. You're kind of, okay, well, they just want me to create that sort of noise. Well, that's fine. I know how to do country, acoustic rock, because I've listened to loads of it. I know the sort of tropes to use. I know the sort of way the drums generally sound. I know what kind of bass tone to have, and all that sort of stuff. And you just write a piece of music with no nagging voice in your ear telling you that it's terrible or telling you to stop and go do something else, because I've got to write this and then I get paid, and then that'll keep the lights on at home, and so that is, if I ever do find myself in a situation where I can't find any music within myself, what I will do is I will say, right, I'm going to write myself a brief. I'm going to impose some very strict limitations on myself, and I'm going to take myself right out of my comfort zone. Because that's the thing, when you swim around in the same old stuff, if you write acoustic folk songs and you're just sitting there and you're strumming a G major over and over again, and you can't think of anything, then do something totally different. Go, right, I'm going to write something in 3/4. I'm going to write it in, E flat minor, or a key that I'd never normally just gravitate towards. Or for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to imagine I've been asked to write a song for, Kylie Minogue, or I'm going to write, the next song for, pick an artist. I'm going to write a Billie Eilish song. And then you just listen, and then all of a sudden it's a totally different part of your brain you're using. So you go and listen to lots of stuff and you think, oh, okay, what are they doing there? What are they doing there? Blah, blah, blah. And then you sit down and you try and sort of, exist within that musical world, which isn't the one that I immediately gravitate towards on different instruments. So, tell yourself, right, I'm going to write a song in the style of Billie Eilish, and also set time limits. And it has to be finished. And I mean, melody, harmony, lyrics, everything has to be finished in an hour. So set yourself a very, very, something like that. Or, it's got to be finished by the end of the day, something like that. And then all of a sudden, you don't have time for the self-doubt. You don't have time to sit there and find yourself stagnating in stuff that you've always done and feeling a bit rubbish, because you're in a totally new space and you have this, sort of deadline hanging over you. So all of a sudden, it just, for me anyway, it just comes out. And so that's what I do really. I set myself sort of writing challenges, which totally change the part of the brain that you're using. And I find that very helpful. Another technique that I have, which might not work for everyone, but it certainly works for me. And this was just told to me sort of on a whim by my great friend, Andrew Abrahamson, who's a photographer who's taken endless photos of me over the years. And I've worked with a lot. He's, one of my best friends. And he told me he'd read an article about medieval bards who, when they were, a technique that they would use to kind of come up with melodies would be they would go somewhere that's quiet but not silent, and they would lie down and close their eyes, and they'd normally put like a heavy weight on their chest so they wouldn't fall asleep, and they would just listen to the noise around them and try and discern the melodies within it. So this is something, I mean, I've done this a lot over the years. I tend not to do it anymore because it's sort of, you do it enough and it kind of becomes automatic really. But so I will find somewhere, outside is good because there's the sound of nature, there's the sound of, just stuff going on around you. Even if you're in a city, there's lots of noise, but there's no one singular source taking up all your attention. So I would go and I would sit somewhere and I'd close my eyes and I would very consciously try and turn off my conscious brain. If that, I've said consciously turn off my conscious brain, but you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I always try and picture imagery like a leaf that's just being kind of buffeted by the wind. And I imagine, or just like a tiny point, and that tiny point is your consciousness. And then you, like I say, you just hear the sound. So it's almost like a mindfulness exercise, and you allow these noises to just sort of pass through your brain. And then, like the sound of a bird might trigger like a little melody. And then you can just let that melody, without grabbing it and analyzing it, just let it just drift around in your brain and see if it sparks another idea. And then maybe all of a sudden, oh, that melody that just that bird gave you is like a lovely little pre-chorus. And then you got the pre-chorus. Okay, well, where does that want to go? And you just stay in this state of allowing your mind to drift, essentially, whilst kind of keeping it centered. And that's a really nice way of just allowing melodies, especially for me, it's melody, to kind of arrive in your brain. So there are all these ways of, and the thing to always do is change your environment. If you're sat there with your guitar and nothing good is coming out, then fucking put the guitar down, go for a walk, change your environment. So that is my advice to people that suffer from the writer's block. It's what I do, which is, right, totally change the paradigm, work on something else, pick a totally mental, genre that's totally different from anything you'd always do. Put some weird limitation on yourself, like you're going to play in a key that is unfamiliar, or you're going to write on a different instrument or whatever. Put a time limit on it, so it has to get done. So all of a sudden, just the first idea that comes, just use it. Just use the first idea and see, and just get a song written, and then you can improve it. Or, be a bit more sort of mindful and go somewhere and allow your brain to drift and see what comes through. Both of those things work wonders for me.
You just gave a gold mine of information for people there. Like, I feel like new artists, because I was going to ask next, what tip would you give to any younger artists? But I feel like that's kind of been answered, because that you just gave so much information for writer's block. That's going to help me in some areas of some things. So thank you for that. I've learned something today. I feel like everyone else is going to like enjoy that with the writer's block.
Well, man, I think it's great for. I think it works for any kind of creative thing. If you're a writer, and you're struggling to write something, we'll go, okay, well, I'm just going to step away from this and I'm going to write a bunch of knock-knock jokes, or I'm going to, pick an inanimate object and write some sort of ridiculous short story sort of fantasy about that object having, becoming anthropomorphized and going on an adventure, whatever. It's just just boot your brain into a different corner and see what comes out. But with regards to advice to younger artists, I mean, if I was just addressing myself as a younger artist, because there's so much stuff that I wish I'd known when I was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, firstly, there's no rush, and, because I was, 18 years old, and I was like, oh God, I've got to be on tour and doing great stuff by the time I'm 19, and then I'm 19. Oh God, it hasn't happened, and that just kept coming, and I felt this almost sort of sense of impending doom, that if I don't somehow achieve something that I don't even know what it is, by the time I'm, pick some arbitrary age, then my life will end. And it was like this enormous sort of Damocles hanging over me the whole time. But let me tell you that several things happened in pretty close succession that totally changed the way I think about that sort of thing. But the main thing that happened was two things. Well, my band, we were asked by wonderful Frank, old Frankie T, who you should soon to be interviewing. He asked us to go on tour supporting him. And then the second thing that happened was he asked me to play piano in his band for a tour of America.
Souls. Yeah.
So I was, so I found myself all of a sudden, having to learn how to play the piano a bit better, and then going off and doing this tour. But anyway, those two things happened in very quick succession, and so we went off and did the tour, supporting, this is with the family. We were going around all of the UK, playing loads of gigs. It was the most fun. It was just the best, playing these things with my best friends and doing, to this great, and Frank's audiences. I mean, I'm sure you've been to a Frank Turner gig, have you?
The day before I was going to one, lockdown hit and Frank had to cancel.
Mate.
The day before, I was gutted, and I still am.
Well, Frank's fans are the best, because I always think of them more as like a congregation, because they turn up and they sing every single word, and they're so into it, and they're so kind of embrace the ethos of it all. And so, what better group for us to play to? There's such wonder, and obviously, so many of our fans have come to us through Frank. And anyway, so we went around and did all these amazing gigs, and then we did, gigs of our own. We did all these, in much smaller venues, obviously, and it was just the best thing in the world. And but then I went off to America, and I toured around America with Frank, and we were playing gigs to 8,000, 10,000 people, massive venues, and colossal stage, like amazing, full-on rock star stuff, like the sort of stuff that the sort of thing which I could only dream of, right?
What tour was this? Was it?
It was 2018? 2017. America and Canada we did.
So it could have been one of the album tours for Positive Songs for Negative People, or just a solo tour.
Oh, it was Positive Songs. It was that era. I'll tell you what, the first gig of the tour we played in Washington, D.C. the day before Trump got inaugurated. So if that helps to date it. We actually had a tour of the Capitol the day before the inauguration.
Damn.
And oh my God, man, it was the most astonishing thing. Like, because obviously Frank's very famous, and so people will get in touch with amazing offers of lovely things. And one guy that got in touch was this fellow, I forget my stupid brain, but he was some sort of senior bloke within the Democrat Party. And he said, well, come to the Capitol, I'll show you around.
That's cool. That is cool.
And so we had this tour, and obviously we were going into the offices and like seeing the actual workings of it all. And the atmosphere the day before that fucking guy got inaugurated, it was the most, the look on people's faces. And I've thought about it a lot since, and it was a lot like what I'd imagine the feeling would be of walking down the aisle towards someone you weren't in love with. It's like walking down and you're like, well, this is happening.
He's here now.
Too late to back out now. It might be all right, but this sense of just dread. It was astonishing. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So we did this amazing tour, and it was the dream, because like I said, I'd felt like I'd spent so much of my 20s wasting my energy, feeling and getting so unhappy, thinking that, well, this is all I want to be is this, is a musician and do this great big thing. And if I don't achieve a certain level, then what's the point in even, in living? It's like I felt like there was this enormous sense of doom hanging over me all the time. And it really affected my sort of well-being in many ways. And then I found myself, and I was just chasing this kind of golden thing, which I didn't even know what it was, but I knew that I wanted it. And if I didn't get it, I was going to just vanish in a puff of smoke. And all of a sudden, I'm doing it. All of a sudden, I'm playing on stage in front of 10,000 people and getting on a tour bus and driving around North America and having these amazing experiences. And let me tell you, it was no different in terms of how it affected my emotions. It was no different than rolling up to a pub in Camden with the family and playing to 100 people. It was exactly the same level of joy, the same level of everything. I thought getting to that level, was like being handed the keys to Mount Olympus, and all of a sudden you ascend to some sort of higher plane, some higher plane of existence. But it wasn't that at all. And let me tell you, to get to all of a sudden, however old I was then, to suddenly get to that age and realize that the thing that you felt you could die without is the thing that you've had all along, is like the most liberating and beautiful feeling. Because all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden there isn't this ticking clock of doom hanging over me. All of a sudden I can do this thing that I love for the rest of my life and know that it will make me happy. And that is just a really lovely feeling to have. And that is what I would say to younger me. I would say, for God's sake, stop sitting there feeling terrible and resenting friends of yours who get like really nice opportunities and wishing, and doing gigs and just wishing they were bigger, because, and just because God, every Friday night, I play to a phone that's balanced on a mic stand, that's next to my studio, and it fills me with just total joy. And it's that's the joy. The joy is the work. The joy is just doing it. It doesn't matter if it's in front of fucking 10,000 people and there's like nice catering. Oh, okay, well, the catering is nice. It is nice being handed like yummy free food. but like the joy of it is exactly the same whether I'm playing to, 5 people, or I'm playing in someone's house, or if I'm playing into 10,000 people in some Canadian arena somewhere, and that is such a lovely feeling. And there's no rush. If you love playing music, then you're going to love playing music, no matter how you do it or who you do it to. Yeah. So that is my advice. The other piece of advice I would give is remember that you are, entertaining people. So be entertaining. So, you are there to provide a soundtrack to people's lives and provide them a brief reprieve from the grinding tedium of life. So for God's sake, make it something joyful and make it entertaining. People have paid to watch you. They haven't paid to see you shuffle on stage in your shitty trousers and stare at the floor. They're there to be entertained. Anyway, that is what I would say.
So, Felix, once again, you gave a gold mine of information for young artists. Almost every single interview I have on, if it's of like a local Liverpool band or somebody that's literally just starting, they always give tips to other artists, and I feel like this has been one of the best ones to because you've had experience with 10,000 people, 100 people, and one person in someone's gaff. So you're probably one of the best to hear that from, and I'm so glad about that. So next question, what's the place what's been that place where you've loved on tour?
On tour? Mm-hmm. Oh God, okay. Well, I mean, in the UK, in terms of Well, I grew up in the New Forest, and the nearest gig venue to where I grew up is the Joiners in Southampton.
Yeah.
And so the nearest, realistic touring venue for us, I should say. And playing there was very, very special because just the crowd was great and it felt so good. And my parents came and all of this. But then on the UK, we played in Edinburgh on the tour with Frank, and we played a gig at the Usher Hall, which is beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. It's this it's like a full-on classical concert hall vibe. Just everything is lovely. And we went on to have one of the best and funniest nights of my life afterwards. And it was that was particularly magical. But then sort of globally, I mean, we toured. There were a couple of spots. I mean, we played, when I was with Frank with the Sleeping Souls, we played in a theatre on Broadway.
That's cool.
And for a little musical theatre dweeb like me, I mean, that felt magical. I mean, magical to be backstage, because I'm obsessed with being backstage in theatres. There's something electric about the atmosphere. Yeah, and it's just, I just love the feeling of being backstage and being part of this team of magicians who are going to try and create some experience for all the people out there, and just being scurrying around all the nooks and crannies and just feeling so.
I miss that.
The nerves and the excitement. I miss that
so much because I was in a few performances in college and stuff like that, and our performance of Grease got cancelled like 2 days before.
Oh, no!
I know. Everything it was going decent. I absolutely love performing because I make so many friends from that. I made one of my gig friends from there. And but theatre is a really nice way just to just connect with people. It's so fun just to express yourself, get out there. So I know exactly what you mean, man.
It's so nice backstage, the sense of camaraderie. Who were you going to play?
It was one of the T-Birds. I think it was Doody, I think his name was.
I think... Oh, so you got to sing those magic changes?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes! Oh, we did it at school, and my best mate played Doody, and it was wonderful. Oh, man, well, I hope it gets restaged.
That will be. I'm leaving college in like 3 months, so...
Oh, mate. Oh, God.
I know, man, it's... weird times. Corona flipped everything on our heads. So what were you saying about venues again? Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, so we played at this theatre on Broadway that was absolutely wonderful, and then we played. I mean, we did a gig in Montreal in Canada, and it was the first time I'd ever been to Canada, let alone Montreal, and it was and Montreal in itself is the most beautiful city. It's absolutely gorgeous, that place, and I loved wandering around there. But then that night, because Frank, he loves to do a thing where he'll sort of do a gig and then he'll do a sort of cryptic clue on his Twitter, and it'll be like directions to a bar, and so and he'll be there playing, and I used to go with him and we'd play songs, like we'd sort of trade songs in bars with 100 people crammed in. It was great. But then one night in Montreal, we ended up back at a guy's flat. He had this sort of flat that like a Bond villain would have. And like huge roaring fire and huge open plan place, and loads of people. And this guy was so cool. He just he said, yeah, anyone can come. So loads of people from the gig all wound up, and it was me and Frank and Max from the Arkells, and we all just had acoustic guitars, and we just sat there and played with all these people around singing along, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful night.
One of the funnest.
And we sort of staggered out at like 5 a.m. and got back on the bus, but that was very special. And then we played in Boston, and that was the last gig of the tour, and it was the biggest one that Frank was headlining, because in Canada it was the Arkells headlining. And but this was 8,000 people at the Aganis Arena in Boston, and I mean, that was just extraordinary. Being the headline act in an arena is like, I mean, the excitement before the gig was amazing. And the great thing was that a guy called Will Folsham, who was my great mate at school, and we were in a band when we were 15, 16 together. And he subsequently moved to Boston. And I was able to get him and his whole family a ticket. And like, we had this lovely meal before, and then they came along to the gig. But the tickets they got were really shit seats right at the back. So I was like, come with me. And I kind of waved my I'm a big shot sort of lanyard around, and I got them all the way up to the sort of special VIP bit at the front. And so like I could look out from the stage and see like one of my best childhood musical friends sort of just beaming and crying and like waving. And it was just, I mean, oh man, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Oh, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Oh, good
I
Lord.
feel like that there were some lovely answers for like best areas because it's not really the place, it's the memories from the place.
Mm. Oh,
So,
God, yeah.
go on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Another favourite one, we were on tour with the family and we played in a place called Keighley up north. And we were in this kind of, it was called the Keighley, oh God, I can't remember the name of the venue now. I can't remember, but it had like, it was like a sort of, it was like, it was like clubland. It was,
I'm
there
on
was,
to.
everyone there was, there were quite a few sort of more elderly people there. A lot of people were sat down. I remember we were on stage and the guy that ran the club like ran up to me in between songs and went, "Don't forget to tell them about the pie and peas." So I was like, "Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please report to the hatch for pie and peas after we play." And then like, it was just so funny. Oh God, but anything becomes great when I'm going around with those wonderful people. It's just like, oh, it's just really fun, man. Oh God, I just bloody love going and playing gigs.
And I'll say it again. Hopefully, you can play soon.
Oh
Hopefully,
God,
you
yes.
can come somewhat up north more, come near Liverpool, Manchester, Crewe area. And I'll
Oh
definitely
man.
come see you.
Well, I
Definitely
live in
112%.
Manchester, man. I live in I live just sort of in sort of South Manchester, North Stockport.
Oh, decent.
But yeah, I mean, we had a Zoom meeting today, the production team of one of my musicals, and it looks like, I mean, God, knock on wood for God's sake, but it looks like we might have some dates for coming back to the theatre. So that's
thank God.
very, I mean, I've got to remember how to play all the bloody songs in the show, but it looks like we'll be coming back for that. So that's very exciting.
Try and catch a show of that wherever it is. I'll go to the depths of London for that. So,
yeah.
3 more questions. So,
Go for it.
the one what I love asking is, it's a weird one because no one ever has an instant answer except one person who has ever interviewed. If someone was to play you in a biopic, who would you want? Who would you want to play you, and how would you want to be portrayed?
Tim Curry, and I'd want him to portray me. I just want to give him total free reign. I want him to go, right, Tim. Right, the muzzle's off.
Who
You just
you
go totally nuts. Just go, just do whatever you want, Tim. I just want to meet Tim Curry, basically. I want Tim Curry to play me, just so I can hang out with him and then boast that I got Tim Curry to play me in a biopic. Either him or like Tilda Swinton, because she's very much my kind of. She's been very much my sort of style icon for a long time. Yeah, I used to love going. I used to go to this sort of like real blokes barber up here in Manchester, but they wouldn't talk like that.
Yeah.
Like real proper fucking men barber, where they're like, sit down, here's 10 beers, and the football's playing really loudly. Like, all right, what do you want? And then I pull out a picture of Tilda Swinton at like the Met Gala. So give me that, and then oh God. Yeah, so Tilda Swinton and Tim Curry possibly playing sort of, yin and yang sides of the same personality. I don't know. I'm not sure who'd come and watch this film. It would also, it'd be nice if the Muppets were involved as well. That'd be nice. It would definitely be a musical. My top 5 films are all musical films.
Oh, come on. La La Land, is that in there?
Fuck no. I hate that film.
What? How do you hate No. How do you hate La La Land? That's like one of the best, bro. Like, I love La La Land. Like, someone hate La La Land.
But don't forget, I love theatre. I love musicals. I love musicals that are like being hurled into a molten vat of candy floss. I like musicals that are glittery and ridiculous and embrace that and go completely over the top with it. So my top 5 films are Mamma Mia 2,
Perfect.
Moulin Rouge, Rocket Man, and what's the other one? Singing in the Rain. Yeah, so it's like, and they're all joint first, by the way. It's all films that are just, oh God, they just want to pin you to a seat and just shove, just joy into your very soul.
I can't wait to see Mamma Mia live.
I didn't get that from La La Land, and I didn't like the songs very much. And that is obviously the cardinal sin.
Perfect. But
which is not to say they weren't good.
Sorry.
A lot of people love them. I just they weren't my kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like things that are a bit cheesier.
I mean, Mamma Mia is like one of the queens of like musicals. Like I've got tickets to see it live, and it was pushed back by 2 years because of Corona. So I can't wait to see that. So the 2 final questions, they were both from fans.
Okay.
This next one, it's when lockdown's over and we're all finally free from the shackles of Boris Johnson, um, would you still consider playing live like every Friday so often maybe?
I never want to stop. I want to do my lovely Fridays. I want to just take it all over the world with me. I want to be, it's bizarre. It's like, because now I used to think, okay, I'll do it for a bit, but then people will get bored. But then I fell in love with doing it, and I fell in love with the community around it. And I just love my kind of rigmarole of, Thursday night coming back late to the studio and learning a bunch of new songs and then sort of playing them and talking and just doing all that stuff. I just love doing it. And so now, for example, I've, very, very early days, but I've got like an agent that's based in America, and we're talking about sort of American projects and all this sort of stuff. So now it's like, what if I have to go to America? I'll have to find somewhere with a piano so I can do my Friday nights. And so it's like I kind of subconsciously factor it into all my plans. so God, I have no intention of stopping. I want to keep going, and I love doing it. And it's just the community. It's the fact that relationships have now formed from people on either side of the Atlantic, just from the comment section on my thing. And I think, it's just it seems to provide, and the messages I've received from people, I feel like it would be just wrong of me to stop, because it just, it just feels maybe ridiculously self-aggrandizing. I don't know. But the fact that it makes people so happy, which is all I ever want to do with the stuff that I create, why would I stop?
It's massively wholesome. It's a massively wholesome thing.
Oh, thanks, man.
And the last one, you kind of answered that a bit. What do you think of the community who watch your live streams, who join in with you every Friday, who always do stuff for you? What do you think of them?
I just think I find myself I find myself baffled as to what attracts people towards it, because at the end of the day, it's me slightly ineptly hammering out songs on a piano and then just talking nonsense, and dressing in preposterous clothes.
Maybe people want that.
Well, that's the thing. But I'm baffled as to what attracts people to it. But it brings me such tremendous joy to see the way that they interact and the way that we talk to one another. It seems to just so fully encapsulate all that I ever want, in my sort of utopia that I create in my head, where everyone is just lovely to one another, and all we do is make nice things together, and everyone's really supportive and kind and non-judgmental and totally liberal and liberated. And that seems to be so prevalent in the way that people interact with each other and with me through those gigs. And it just feels, I don't know, it feels wonderful. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like a part of my soul, really. And and the people that get involved and the messages they send me and the presents, for God's sake. I'm not a deep man. I like a present. I love it when people send me presents. And I've got so many lovely things. And I kind of did this stupid thing one week where I just sort of went off on a tangent in the middle of a song and just made up this ridiculous story that was all about like a guy running a spoon shop, and then he has this sort of big deathly battle with the proprietor of another spoon shop. And it was just a stupid thing. And now, people have designed merch based on it. And there's people send me sort of all these beautiful spoons with with all this stuff engraved on it. And it just makes me laugh so much. Just the fact that this joy and silliness and just people doing stuff just for the joy of it, man, it's just I don't know. It makes me so happy. And the fact that it makes other people happy, good Lord. That's the thing, isn't it?
What? I absolutely loved this episode. We're coming to an end now. That was amazing. Honestly, you're a great guy, Felix.
Oh man, thank you.
Is there anything you want to say to anyone watching? Because everyone's told me to DM them the moment this is out. All the fans, because you're a very popular man.
Oh God. You're so strange, man. I've just spent the last year just sat in this little soundproof room, and it's oh God, It just seems strange to me. Oh God. Anyway, anything to say to people? I mean, come along on Fridays and let's have a lovely sing.
Yeah, Fridays.
It's a very, very lovely environment.